that would include your parents, your teachers, your students, the community partnership, anything of that nature. And so when I thought it was a 4, because I wouldn't say you work with the totality of stakeholders, but you do, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's been times when you have worked with this leadership team to kind of help and articulate my vision as a leader, you
Mm-hmm.
understand who I am as a leader,
Mm-hmm.
but then being able to take that interpretation and speak to potential candidates. That's a stakeholder. Being able to talk to students, ultimately ensuring that the work we're doing is aligned to what I have put out there. So that's how I was looking at it.
Okay.
So even when you have worked with students with tutorial practices or those kind of pieces, so I said a 4 because I know I can't remember what the rating was on 4, but I know you work with those different stakeholders. It may not be all of them, but you've worked with
Right, and I think I was thinking of like totality, like all. So
right.
I think that was just kind of what
And
my
I think with any of this, I want you to keep in mind, all of it is about interpretation and subjectivity, right?
Right, right.
So it's based on the leader, experience,
Mm-hmm.
and experience with these different little terminologies, right? Because some people, when they think of stakeholders, they immediately go to community,
Yes.
or what have
Mm-hmm.
you. Where I believe stakeholders is everyone that's
It,
invested in this.
yes, invested in the school. Yeah. So, but through my readings, that's what we've been taught or, communicated as well. So I do agree with that.
Okay.
So that's standard 1. I think for the most part, we were similar in that regard. This is 2. I think 2 is kind of similar too.
Okay.
It's an efficiency. We were like 1 or 2 away from 2.
Okay.
I have a few 3s here, and then I guess we can go back and kind of narrow down like what in my role, what standard would be best to kind of tackle to, see growth. I think that would be
So is she advising that you kind of pick something from every single standard, or
She just the verbiage said, and I have it. It says look at areas of strength, growth, and then items that were rated differently by the candidate and the sponsor. And 4, what strategies for increasing your knowledge, skills, and experience in the identified areas of growth.
got it?
So I don't think it has to be all over the place, but I think for us, if we could just kind of narrow down that focus.
Okay.
Let me go back. So I would say, I'm going to go back to 1 real quick. But so for 1, I think I'm in a good place
I would say
as
that as
far
well.
as area of strength.
I would say, in my opinion, because I've gotten to work with you over the years, I think it's the instructional leadership you're strong.
Okay. All right. School climate, like a 1 or 2 away. All right. So the only thing I think I see different is here it says develops and or implement a safe school plan. And I put 3, you put 1. I guess I was thinking like, how we had to help Jennings with the maps of the school, like the evacuation plan and iron that out. I wouldn't say I
Got
do
it.
that all the time.
Right.
But
So I guess because I wasn't thinking about the operational pieces and your involvement in operational pieces, I do remember last year when I needed you guys' assistance with it with Jenny, just to try to get it organized.
mm-hmm.
But then I went to a totality piece.
Got you. Mm-hmm.
Were you part of that main conversation about the development of it and implement it versus, hey, Doc, or versus I'm stating, this is where I stated, say, here guys, here's a plan. I need you to look for loopholes, right?
Got you.
So to me, that was providing the opportunity to get feedback on the plan, but not necessarily at the initial start.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Okay. That's kind of cool. School climate. That was an okay standard. I mean, room for growth. All right, here we go. Next, standard 3, planning and assessing. I think this one and another one below is kind of where I know it's some areas for growth here that I could possibly tackle in my role. Like for example, what's this? Monitor effectiveness of school program. You put 3, I put 2, but I know, this year we're talking about doing PBIS, and that would be something that I will start along with just the instructional pieces with the master teachers and the instructional coaches, and just being the leader on that process. I know definitely there for an area of growth that I know we can kind of focus on there. And
but we're somewhat in the same ballpark. We're off 1 or 2, right? But I think we're in the same ballpark. I think when you talk about using multiple sources of data, I definitely want to step higher than 2, because when you think about us trying to group or to identify those incoming 9th graders, or even trying to do recommendation for those students, I think we've gone back as far as looking at 7th grade data, reading scores, math scores. I think at one point I remember us looking at what's it, IQ? It was another score to kind of give us an insight on where the student could possibly perform at its best. Does that make sense? But I do remember you taking the lead with that and pulling all of those data points on top of students' grades, right?
Right.
So I wasn't only thinking about our current school, I was also thinking about the times you worked with me at our previous.
Right. Okay. That's true. But I do know with the data piece, just also looking at discipline, I think for us and tardies and kind of aligning those things with those students. I know something that I know I've been thinking about, once we get, PBA started, are these kids that are, frequently tardy. If they're frequently tardy, then what are their grades like, So looking at, data that way as well.
Right. Okay.
So that's something that I know I would definitely be doing this school year.
And so I know I hear you speak about the things you want to do this school year. So my food for thought would be, I think this is your weakest area.
Yes.
I would tell you that you need to pick a grade level.
Yes.
Because it's easy to look at a small group first versus that large group.
Yes.
Now, if we go back to brick and mortar, then you can say, okay, let me look at the first 30 days. Who has the highest level of tardies? Can I focus there? Because I think sometimes what happens as we start to develop leaders, they're all over the place.
Right.
And so when you start to talk about a product or a project or initiative, it's hard to track that initiative because you made it too massive. So, and that's not necessarily saying it's the best approach. That's just my food for thought. Like pick a grade level and run with it.
I agree with that, because then are you just doing the work? What are you doing the right work? Because because like you're just spinning your wheels and stuff like that.
Right.
So I do agree. This one is I guess area for growth. I would say I don't know if my job lends itself so much for this particular standard.
I see. So this is where you're gonna kind of have to do your job and prepare for the job you want.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
And so and all of us as leaders have had to work the job we have and put in the overtime, right, to prepare for the job that we want. So when you start to look at this, where it says create and implement routines and procedures to ensure a safe, orderly, and positive environment, that is, that should be any single leader. That goes back to that grade level piece, right? Are you working with the administrative team to ensure that the 9th grade academy or 10th grade academy have these procedures? And if they don't, are you able to come up with plans to go to fill those gaps?
Gotcha.
Whether school wide, but for us, even academy wide, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just haven't been part of, I call it that level. When we talk about enforcing discipline fairly and consistently, that's again looking at the data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And saying, hey, Doc, I've been watching our special ed numbers. There's some disproportionality in the number of suspensions that is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Visit whether or not we're being fair and consistent, and whether or not teachers are following a BILP or IEP. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Or
Because some of these
discipline
kids,
plan
right?
or
So
whatever. Mm-hmm.
right. So that just requires you, and I can't tell you how to organize this because this could become very massive,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you just got to figure out, do you want to focus on a small group?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I always think about like the Avid girls. I mean, not the Avid girls, the Avid team. We're talking about 30 to
Mm-hmm.
60 kids. Do you want to do an academy, which is fine because you get to look at the discipline and all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always go back to me. I focus on the failure rates, but then I was easily noticed that the discipline went down when we focus on the failure rates. You know what I'm saying? It's one of
Mm-hmm.
those things. Let me focus on one, and it has this domino of impact versus
Gotcha.
trying to track it all.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I would tell you. My food for thought is pick a grade level or a group that you want to kind of wrap your arms around.
Gotcha.
Ensure technology is accessible, working to you, because all of these are easy. The creating a budget piece, it's a hit and miss as a leader. You know what I mean? Sometimes the principal just do it, but I do involve you guys in budget. I may not include you in every facet,
Right.
but I do tell you guys, I do allow you to be part of some of those decision making process. For
Right.
instance, teachers' authority to maintain.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, so
As far as like making it narrow and finding a group, and then I can hone in on some of these, pieces.
yeah, I
I
just think
can-
it would be so much easier.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So that was 4. This is 5. I think we was like very similar with 5.
Yeah.
Um, let's see what the ones are. Foster and sustain an induction program. That's the new teachers.
Yeah.
So since
They've
I'm
done
a
a
part of the new,
fantastic job with new teachers.
right, I
Right.
agree. But I think Mr. James is supposed to be over that this year, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna do a better job. But again, asking him, can you kind of
Right,
piggyback on top of that?
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was exactly thinking. They, since I'm a coach, I should be a part of that
And
process.
I would even get with him and talk about, I should be part of every single, like they're having these monthly meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to get together to do kumbaya, but we should be talking about instructional practices and what best fits our school.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tell you to definitely get with him and email him and let him know we've talked. You ask the lead coach that you definitely need to work closely with him.
Okay. All right. Selects. And then most of the other stuff were 4s. Yeah, because we've been doing a lot of hiring.
Right. And so, just in fairness, Chap and I had this aha moment today, is that just how you had to take over the hiring this year. We kind of threw you in. I just realized this morning you had really never vetted prior for me. You know what I mean? So, you've done a great job jumping in. I don't know, in my head, because you've been with me so long,
Mm-hmm.
I had assumed you and I have gone through a vetting process.
Because when we was at Tri-City, it was like, okay, I find a person, I call and say, can you come in for an interview? And then that was it. We didn't do the phone thing. We just had them come in. So then when I got to North Springs, I didn't really have to do that as much. I could find candidates, but Chat did all the vetting. So
Right.
that's why I was like, I didn't know we had to do all
Yeah. So, and I wanted to try to teach you that piece, so you never get these surprises. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole purpose about the vetting. One, trying to determine, is this worth my time?
Time, right? Or even on the other person's side too.
Right. let me kind of tell you some things that are up front that has been some, some bumps in the roads for some people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece is, and so I didn't realize that as we was talking through Kevin Brown,
Mm-hmm.
I think whatever that guy's name,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, wait a minute, I don't think she's ever vetted for me before, so I do
Mm-hmm.
apologize. So you've done well, you have. I just realized we threw you into that, so
Yeah,
sorry about
that's
that.
cool. I'm down. All right, 6 is teacher and staff evaluations, which I don't participate in like formal like teach, but I do give feedback,
You do.
in my role. So
You do.
that's just something that I'll continue to do. I think that's one of my strong suits. That this standard and the top one, I think,
Right.
kind of lends itself towards my role.
Right. And even when you start talking about, is this my number? Are you in blue?
You're blue.
I'm interested. I'm not sure why would it say where I talk about using multiple data sources to document standards. I think
Mm-hmm.
that probably should move over further to the right,
Mm-hmm.
because when I started to think about how we utilize our cameras and trying to document these different
Mm-hmm.
standards and executing, I think we do a great job at that.
Yeah.
Purpose feedback. Okay, so yeah, and to me, this would probably be your easiest one as well,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
this is
Mm-hmm.
something, because we're huge on coaching. The only thing that would take something away from this, because you do participate in those conferences with your teachers, you do give them those observations. They may not be formal as far as
Teats, right. Yeah.
right? But you guys do all this.
Right. So I guess for me, this would be something that I know I would do, but just how can I enhance it better as far as, coaching is involved, just ensuring that the coaching process is done with fidelity, not only myself, but, my other counterparts, the master teachers, the other coach, and even just ensuring that the administration team is doing the same thing, that we're all on the same page.
Right.
To make sure,
Holding us accountable, right? And
Mhm.
giving us that feedback, right?
Yeah.
And for you this year, this is going to be a stretch because you come out of that one subject area, and now
Right.
what does that look like coming across the board?
Right.
Yeah.
And last one is professionalism. And let's see. This is just kids I do.
We look like we're close.
Yeah.
Adheres to and demonstrate professional standards set forth in the Georgia Leader Keys. You don't, because you don't get to do it, right? And then the last one, visit other schools, where you gave it to. I just said one because we just haven't been afforded those kind of opportunities.
Right. And I think that would be cool just to see like other.
Well, I think in order for us, it's time for us to do some vertical observations. In order for us to move our school, we got to figure out what's going
within
on.
the cluster. Yeah, we definitely need to do
It
that.
has to be a cluster situation. We got to do better.
Mm-hmm. So I would say if we could focus on, I guess, organizational management, and just kind of figuring out how can I, through my role as a coach, kind of capture some of these, like kind of put them together, like set clear expectations for student behavior. That will be under PBIS.
So that's your PBIS plan.
Right. So if I'm doing PBIS, that will go with that. So just how effectively would that run?